Hi lovelies, you're welcome to my channel. So I'm going to be drafting a beginners friendly bustier top with yoke, and these are the measurements needed. I wrote two lines across my pattern paper, which the first line here is my shoulder line, then the second line here is my front waist line. Now from my shoulder line here, I'm going to come down to my bust point of 11 inches. From my shoulder line, I will come down to my under bust point of 14.5 inches. Now I'll go ahead and rule a straight line on those points. Now go ahead and determine your own measurement, okay? Now after doing this, I'm going to label this line here, my bust line, then my under bust line. The next thing I will do is to divide my shoulder measurement by 2. After dividing 16 inches by 2, what I have is 8 inches. I will place it on my shoulder line. And then I'll mark 3 inches for the neck wideness, 3 inches for the neck depth. I'll go ahead to connect the neck points together like so. Now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to come down from that 8 inches point on the shoulder line by 1 inch. Now this is to get my shoulder slope. Now I'll go ahead and connect it to the neck wideness on the shoulder line like so. After doing that, I'm going to measure my armhole circumference divided by 2. So after dividing 17 by 2, I have 8.5 inches. I'm going to place it this way and then mark the 8.5 inches point. And then I will measure the 8 inches point I have on my shoulder line here as well. Now this is just to get an accurate measurement, like a straight line. Now I'll go ahead and connect it to the shoulder slope like so. I'll also rule a straight line like so, and this line is my chest line. So I will label it my chest line, and then I will divide the armhole measurement by 2, and then I will get the midpoint. So from that midpoint, I will go in by half of an inch, and then I'm going to take my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll mark the point on my chest line and then connect the front armhole like so. Now after doing that, the next thing I will do is to divide my nipple to nipple measurement by 2. So I'm making use of 9 inches. I will divide it by 2, which I got 4.5 inches from my bust line. I'll mark that 4.5 inches on my under bust line and then my front waist line. Now I will go ahead to connect those points together. So after connecting the points together, this is my center front and this is my side front, okay? Now from the under bust line on the center front, I'm going to mark 1 inch. Then on the front waist line, I'll mark half inch, still on the center front, okay? Now for the side front on the under bust line, I'll mark 1 inch. Then for the full front waist line on the side front, I'm going to mark half inch. So I'll go ahead and connect to those points like so. So after connecting the point like so, from the bust line here on the dart leg, I will go down by 1 inch and then I will connect it this way to form the cup. And then I'll go ahead to divide what I have on my shoulder line by 2. Now I'll get the midpoint and then I will connect it this way to the dart leg on my bust line. After doing that, the next thing I will do is to come up by 1.5 inches. This is how covered I want my cleavage to be, okay? You can make use of 2 inches, 1 inch. It depends on how covered you want your cleavage to be. Now I'll go ahead and roll a straight line on that point. And then I will label this line my upper chest line. The next thing I will do, from the center front here, I'm going to mark 0.75 for the center front. Remember, on the upper chest line. Then on the side front, I will mark 1 inch. Now I'll go ahead to connect the cup like so. Now the next thing I will do after doing this is to measure from this point of the cup to the upper chest line point here, just to get the difference between the center front and the side front cup. So after doing that, I realized that the center front cup is shorter with 1/4 of an inch, which I just added the 1/4 of an inch here. Now I'm going to go ahead and connect it to the chest line. Now this is how deep I want the neck of the top to be. Okay, you can go ahead and make use of a straight shape for the neck depth. It depends on what you want at this point. So I'll go ahead now and connect the side front armhole like so, and then I'll just blend it this way. Remember, we're making a top with yoke, so this is my front yoke now. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is to take my bust measurement divided by 4. I'll mark the point here on my chest line, and then I'll replace the dart on my upper chest line, like the dart intake here on my chest line. And then I will take my waist measurement, I'll place it there, and then I'll replace the dart intake on my under bust line. Then I'll place it on my front waistline. Now I'll go ahead and connect the body measurement point like so. So after doing that, the next thing I will do is from my bust lining at the side, I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches to get the side dart, and that is the difference between my front half length and my back half length, which is 1.5 inches. So I'll connect it this way, and I'm going to be closing this part. Okay, now I'll go ahead and cut through the bust line like so, and I will use my tape to tape this down. So I've gone ahead to close the side dart. So after closing the side darts, I'm going to add 2 inches for my body allowance. You can make use of 1.51 inch, depend on the allowance that you want for your dress. So I'll go ahead now and connect the points like so. And then I will label it my allowance. After doing that, the next thing I will do is to cut out the front yoke. Okay. So I'm going to be cutting this yoke on fold on my fabric. Now I'll go ahead to cut out the bustier part. So after cutting the bustier parts, this center front here, I'm going to be cutting on fold on fabric. Then the side front, I'm going to be cutting times 2 of it. And this is all for the front pattern. As you can see, I'll go ahead to draft the back pattern. So for the back pattern, my half length is 16.5 inches, while for the front is 18 inches. Now that is the difference of 1.5 inches. That is what I use as the side dart, okay, for the front. So this first line here is my shoulder line. I came down to 16.5 inches for the back waistline. Okay, then from the shoulder line I measure to the bust line, which is 11 inches. Now the under bust line is not necessary when drafting the back pattern. Now I'll go ahead to mark 1.5 inches for the zipper allowance area. Then I will go ahead to rule a straight line on that point. Okay, now after doing this, I'm going to be taking every of my measurement from the zipper allowance line here. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to mark up the 8 inches point for my shoulder measurement on the shoulder line, and then I'll mark 3 inches for the neck wideness. I will come down by 2 inches for the neck depth. Okay, now I'll go ahead and connect the neck point like so. Now from the 8 inches point that I mark on my shoulder line, I'll come down by 1 inch, and this is to get my shoulder slope. I'll go ahead and connect that point together like so to my shoulder line on the neck wideness. Now I'll go ahead and mark 8.5 inches for my armhole circumference divided by 2. I'll mark the point there, and then I will connect it with my ruler all the way to the shoulder slope point. Then I'll also rule a straight line like so, and this line will be my chest line. So I'll go ahead and label this my chest line. The next thing I will do now is to divide what I have for my armhole circumference by 2. I'll get the midpoint, and then I will take my bust measurement divided by 4. I'll mark the point on my chest line, and then I will connect the back armhole like so. Now after doing that, the next thing I will do is to take my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 9 inches divided by 2 will give me 4.5 inches like I did for the front. I'll mark from my chest line to the back waistline. Now I'll go ahead and connect the points like so, and then on the back waistline point here, I'm going to mark half inch beside the dart leg, and then I'll go ahead to connect it this way to the chest line. So after doing that, this is all for the dart. I will come down from this point here by 2 inches. Now this is where the button is going to sit. for the yoke part, okay, for the back yoke. Now I'll go ahead and connect it this way to the dart leg from that point there. Now after using my pencil to mark it, I use my marker to outline it. Now I'll go ahead and mark out 1/4 inch from my chest line like so. Now this is to avoid any gaping around, like when I'm fixing the yoke to the back piece, okay. Now this is the back yoke. From the back waistline on the zipper area, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch, and then I'll mark the point there using my ruler to connect it like so. Now this is to avoid any zipper bulginess, that is to avoid that folding when you fix your zip at the back. So I'm going to be cutting out this particular side here. So already mark my bust measurement on my chest line. I'll take my waist measurement divided by 4. I'll mark the point there on my back waistline, and then I'll replace the dart intake of 1 inch. Now I will go ahead to connect the point like so. After doing that, the next thing I will do is to add my allowance of 2 inches, just like I did for the front piece. And then I'll go ahead to connect the point like so. Then I will go ahead to label this my allowance. The next thing I will do now is to outline the yoke area with my marker. So after doing that, the next thing I will do is to outline the back waistline as well, and then I'll go ahead to cut this out. So at this point, if you've not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, comment, share, and like. Thank you. So I'm going to be cutting the yoke part first. Then I'll go ahead and cut out this 1/4 inch here, okay, to avoid gaping. And also cut this through the chest line, and this is all for the back pattern. So I'm going to be cutting times 2 of the yoke, then times 2 of the down parts. So this is all for the front and the back pattern, as you can see, and this is all for my bustier with yoke for beginners. Okay, thanks for watching, and God bless you.